síwájú. Olúwa síwájú. Wípé Olódùmarè bàbá o, Olódùmarè bàbá o. Olódùmarè bàbá o. mo fẹ́ kọ́. Oya kájọ ijó ọlọ́mọ. Oya kájọ ijó ọlọ́mọ. Mo kẹ̀kẹ́ ijó yẹn tú kẹ̀kẹ́ ijó. Bóyá kájọ ijó ọlọ́mọ o. Mo kẹ̀kẹ́ ijó yẹn tú kẹ̀kẹ́ ijó. Bóyá kájọ ijó ọlọ́mọ o.
mo kí o gbolé àbọ́rúbọ̀ yìí o. Ṣí sàrò mi mo kí yín o. Màmá Adénìkẹ́, mo dúpẹ́ tí ẹ darapọ̀ mọ́ a kú àtìlẹ́yìn. So a máa bẹ̀rẹ̀ kíláàsì ní àìpẹ́ yìí. Ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ṣé ẹ ń gbọ́ mi sà? Ṣé ẹ ń gbọ́ mi mà? Please, tẹ́ bá ń gbọ́ mi type 1 sí comment section. Okay, yeah, ẹ ṣé gan ni bàbá. Mo dúpẹ́ fún àtìlẹ́yìn o. So a máa ṣe ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ bíi 1 or 2 hours ní orí IFA computing. Okay, ẹ ṣé gan sà. Ní lálẹ́ yìí. So ní ọ̀sẹ̀ tí ó kọjá, I think, on Monday, I introduced the program. So I introduced that. I talked about IFA computing, the IFA module of education. That's the system of education that we discovered in the Odu IFA. Then I also talked about the consciousness science. Consciousness science ni à ń pè ní ìmọ̀ orí ní èdè Yorùbá. So it's a new field of science that is a number of researchers around the world are working on it. But in IFA, in Ìṣẹ̀ṣe, in African science, is a mature field. In fact, ìmọ̀ tí àwọn oníṣẹ̀ṣe, àwọn babaláwo ní orí, àwọn ìyá Ifá ní lórí consciousness science tá à ń pè ní ìmọ̀ orí. The top scientists in this field in UK, in the developed world, they don't have it because they don't understand consciousness, what is called consciousness, the soul, spirit. They don't understand them yet. But in IFA, in Ìṣẹ̀ṣe, in Africa, it's quite a well-developed, mature field. So òun là ń pè ní ìmọ̀ orí ní èdè abínibí wa. So mo sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ẹ̀ díẹ̀ ní ọjọ́ Monday, ọjọ́ Ajé. So a máa continue, a máa tẹ̀síwájú níbi tí a dúró sí ní ọ̀sẹ̀ ní ọjọ́ Ajé. So lẹ́ni mo fẹ́ sọ̀rọ̀ nípa nǹkan tá à ń pè ní binary system ní computing, tí ó túmọ̀ sí ètò àlòèjì ní èdè abínibí wa. So a máa sọ̀rọ̀ nípa èyí tí òyìnbó tí wọ́n ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ tó yẹ pé òun ni ẹ̀mí tó mú àwọn láptọ̀pù wa, àwọn ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ wa, ẹ̀rọ ayárabíàṣá, ẹ̀rọ ayélujára, òun ni ó ń jẹ́ kí wọ́n máa ṣiṣẹ́. That's the binary system, the digital communication. Yes. So a máa sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ẹ̀. A tún máa sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ti ìbílẹ̀ wa tó yẹ pé tí bàbá Ọ̀rúnmìlà tí wọ́n ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ ní àti ìgbà ìwáṣẹ̀, tó tún jẹ́ pé tí bàbá Ọ̀rúnmìlà yìí tó wà nínú Ifá táwọn àwọn babaláwo ní ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n tí wọ́n nímọ̀ nípa ètò yìí, tìyẹn gan tún wá kẹnu di ti òyìnbó lọ. Tòyìnbó ni ó ń pàwà ẹ̀rọ àtàfi ń ṣe ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ gbogbo ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ àwọn oríṣiríṣi bẹ́ẹ̀ tí òyìnbó nìyẹn. Ṣùgbọ́n tí èta ní níbílẹ̀, ó tún wá ní agbára ju ètí òyìnbó gbé kalẹ̀ lọ. Ètò yìí là ń pè ní the IFA binary system, tí ó túmọ̀ sí ètò àlòèjì Ifá. So a rí àwọn ìyàtọ̀ gbòógì tó wà láàrin ètò àlòèjì tí òyìnbó ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n oníṣòwò tá à ń pè ní Leibniz tó ṣe àgbékalẹ̀, àti ìyàtọ̀ tó wà láàrin ẹ̀ pẹ̀lú èyí tí bàbá Ọ̀rúnmìlà tí wọ́n ṣe àgbékalẹ̀. Wàá rí pé àwọn ìmọ̀ yẹn wọ́n ní agbára ju ra wọn lọ. So eléyìí á tún jẹ́ ká lè mọ rírì ìṣẹ̀ṣe, ká mọ rírì àwọn ìmọ̀ wa nínú Ifá tí àwọn babaláwo, àwọn ìyá Ifá tí wọ́n máa ń kọ́ wa. So wọ́n máa ṣe ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ yìí ní èdè Gẹ̀ẹ́sì àti èdè abínibí wa. I think there are some non-Yoruba speakers that might join the lecture, so I'll be communicating in both English and Yoruba languages. So ẹ jẹ́ ká bẹ̀rẹ̀ láti ìtàn ráńpẹ́ lórí nǹkan tá à ń pè ní binary number àti ìṣirò. Binary number bí ṣe sọ tẹ́lẹ̀ ni àwọn òǹkà àlòèjì méjì ni wọ́n. tá bá ti rí kan a ti mọ̀ pé ìkejì ẹ̀ a ti mọ̀ etí kejì ẹ̀ jẹ́ torí méjì náà ni wọ́n ju méjì lọ. àwọn òǹkà yìí là ń pè ní binary number. then òdo àti ení ni wọ́n. òdo àti ení àwọn náà ni a rí ní orí fọ́nrán yìí. òdo a rí arrow mi ní orí fọ́nrán yìí bẹ́ẹ̀ kò bá kíní ìgbésí dáadáa. a rí ìlà yìí so a rí òdo ló wà nísàlẹ̀, ení ló wà ní òkè. so ètò àlejò ní eléyìí. ẹ̀rọ ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ tí à ń lò, gbogbo àwọn ẹ̀rọ tá a fi ń ṣe ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ láǹpè ní digital communication technologies. ẹ̀mí tó so wọ́n tó mú ọ̀rọ̀ lélẹ́yìí binary number yìí à ń pè ní bit, binary digits. so this is the base of computing. so ọ̀gbẹ́ni tó ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ ètò yìí ni à ń pè ní Gottfried Leibniz, ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n ìṣirò àti amòye tó wá láti Germany ni. ó jẹ́ ẹni tó nímọ̀ nípa àwọn ẹ̀kọ́ oríṣiríṣi tá a máa ń pè ní àwọn polymath ni a máa ń pè wọ́n. òun ni ó ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ the binary system. ṣùgbọ́n kí arákùnrin kó tó ṣe àgbékalẹ̀, arákùnrin ó ṣe ìgbáyé ní ó máa ti tó bí ọgọ́rùn-ún ọdún bí ọgọ́rùn-ún bí 300 years, over 300 maybe 250 years sísìn ní ó gbé láyé bí 200-300 years thereabout. ṣùgbọ́n kó tó ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ yìí, kó tó ṣe ní the 18th century ni bàbá Ọ̀rúnmìlà ti kọ́kọ́ ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ binary system tá à ń pè ní odù Ifá ní ìgbà ìwáṣẹ̀. kí òyìnbó kó tó mọ̀ nǹkan tá à ń pè ní sáyẹ́ǹsì, ìmọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀, ìmọ̀ ẹ̀rọ, ìmọ̀ ète, kó tó mọ̀ gbà wọ́n yára ni bàbá Ọ̀rúnmìlà ti ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ the Ifá binary system. that's ètò àlòèjì Ifá tí ìyẹn tó wá kẹnu gan. tí bàbá Ọ̀rúnmìlà náà, ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n tí wọ́n ní ìmọ̀, gbogbo ìmọ̀ ayé ni Ọ̀rúnmìlà ní ìmọ̀ ní orí ẹ̀. so a máa ń pe àwọn èèyàn bẹ́ẹ̀, a máa ń pè wọ́n ní polymath. àwọn kan náà ni àwọn babaláwo máa ń pè ní òrìṣà. so ìyàtọ̀ tó wà láàrin nígbà tí Leibniz òyìnbó tó ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ títí ẹ̀, òun nídìí àti lọ kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ ń pa I Ching lọ́dọ̀ àwọn China tí wọ́n wà ní ilẹ̀ Asia. ó lọ kọ́ ń pa I Ching torí I Ching wọn náà ó fara àwọn Ifá títí wọn ní ibẹ̀ yẹn ní China ni. ó kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ bẹ̀gbà tó wá kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ lórí I Ching yẹn, ibẹ̀ ló ti wá ṣe àwárí binary system tí tá à ń pè ní, tá fi ń ṣe computing lẹ́nu, tá fi ń ṣe coding programming lẹ́nu, tá fi ń ṣe networking. gbà tó wá ṣe àwárí yìí, òun náà gbìyànjú láti tún jẹ́ kí binary system kó tún gbòòrò sí. ó fẹ́ jẹ́ kí mathematics kó jẹ́ pé èdè tí wọ́n máa fi máa kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ ní gbogbo ayé ni. ó fẹ́ ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ ètò tó yẹ pé math ni máa fi máa kọ́ gbogbo láǹgbì ní àwọn èèyàn máa fi máa kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́. kò bá jẹ́ ẹ̀kọ́ ìmọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ táwọn ń pè ní science, ẹ̀kọ́ àbí ètò tẹ̀yìn science bí àwọn arts, humanities, kó ṣáàjẹ́ gbogbo ẹ̀ pátápátá. ìṣirò, mathematics ni a fi máa kọ́ gbogbo wọn. ó ṣe iṣẹ́ yìí, ó ṣe títí bọ̀ kò rí ṣe. bọ̀ nípa ìgbìyànjú ẹ̀, ó ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ binary system tó yẹ pé it was one of his most important works. tó yẹ pé àwọn èèyàn tó wà mọ́mọ́ sí, apart from pé ó tún ṣe àwọn iṣẹ́ tó pọ̀, ó ṣiṣẹ́ lórí calculus. òun náà ló invent ìmọ̀ tá à ń pè ní calculus ní mathematics, ní physics. although Isaac Newton náà ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ calculus tiẹ̀ tó yẹ pé ó wà díjà láàrin àwọn méjì gbà tí wọ́n wà láyé. ẹ má yẹ ká lọ sí ìtàn yẹn. so gbà tí ó wá ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ binary system yìí, bàbá Ọ̀rúnmìlà tí wọ́n tún kẹnu tí Leibniz, ìyẹn kọ̀ǹpútà nìkan ni Leibniz cover. ẹ̀kọ́ tí ó dá lórí ni ẹ̀kọ́ ayárabíàṣá tá à ń pè ní computing, táwa fẹ́ network. so computer science, computer engineering ni ẹ̀kọ́ tí Leibniz, tí òyìnbó yẹn tí ó dá lórí. a tún pè ní binary mathematics, àlejì, ìṣirò alòèjì là ń pè binary mathematics. So a rí pé ẹ̀kọ́ méjì gbòógì ní ti òyìnbó Leibniz tí ó dá lé lórí, ìṣirò mathematics àti ìmọ̀ ayárabíàṣá, that is computer, ìmọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ ayárabíàṣá computer science. Ṣùgbọ́n ti bàbá Ọ̀rúnmìlà, binary system tí wọ́n tá à ń pè ní Ifá, gbogbo ẹ̀kọ́ ayé pátápátá ní ti àwọn dálé lórí, àwọn òdúró lórí computer àti èyí tí Leibniz ṣe o, gbogbo ẹ̀ ni òun kó sínú. Òun náà lò àláwò lójú fọ́nrán yìí, gbogbo ẹ̀ pátápátá ní ti bàbá wa Ọ̀rúnmìlà ni ó kó sínú. Ẹ bá nínú ti Ifá, bí àwọn babaláwa àti àwọn ìyá Ifá bọ́ ṣe kọ́ wa, nínú Ifá àbá ẹ̀kọ́ kọ̀ǹpútà ń bẹ, àbá mathematics ń bẹ, àbá physics ń bẹ, gbogbo ẹ̀kọ́ tó wà láyé pátápátá, gbogbo èdè ayé pátápátá ni ó wà nínú Ifá. So àwọn máa rí pé ti òyìnbó, ibi tí wọ́n wà very narrow, just scope wọn ó wà narrow. Ṣùgbọ́n ti bàbá Ọ̀rúnmìlà ti ìṣẹ̀ṣe tá à ń pè ní Ifá, gbogbo ẹ̀kọ́ ló wà nínú yẹn. Ṣùgbọ́n ní òde náà rí pé àwọn èèyàn wọn mọ ìwúlò, wọn mọ ipa tí Ifá kó ní Yorùbá, ní Áfíríkà, ní ìṣẹ̀ṣe. tó òyìnbó yẹn ni àwọn èèyàn máa ń rò pé ó ní agbára jù, ó rinlẹ̀ jù, wọ́n máa ń rò pé ó wà superior. wọ́n dẹ̀ wọ́n pé tìbílẹ̀ gangan òyìnbó gan tí nímọ̀ débẹ̀, òyìnbó gan yìí ń wá láti rí ìmọ̀ tó yẹ pé mo sọ pé òyìnbó yìí Leibniz òun náà ti try láti ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ ètò tó yẹ pé gbogbo ẹ̀kọ́ ayé ló máa rí níbẹ̀. tó bá ń wá physics wàá bá níbẹ̀, tó bá ń wá English studies wàá bá, tó bá ń wá Arabic studies wàá bá nínú ètò yìí. so Ọ̀rúnmìlà ti ṣe ètò yìí sílẹ̀. Leibniz try ètò tí Leibniz ṣe ń gbà yẹn ni à ń pè ní characteristical universalist ni wọ́n máa ń pè. ètò yìí ni pé máàtì náà fi máa kọ́ gbogbo ẹ̀kọ́ tó wà láyé, sísítẹ̀mù ni gbogbo ẹ̀kọ́ ayé ló wà nínú máàtì dẹ̀ náà fi máa ń kọ́. nǹkan tí Ifá jẹ́ nìyẹn, nǹkan tá à ń pè ní Ifá nìyẹn. torí nínú Ifá gbogbo àwọn Ifá odù Ifá yẹn, gbogbo odù Ifá yẹn sì mathematics ni wọ́n, máàtì àwọn irúnmọlẹ̀ ni wọ́n, gbogbo ẹ̀ ni wọ́n fi kó ìmọ̀ jọ, gbogbo ìmọ̀ tó wà láyé lọ́ fi kó jọ sínú ẹ̀. so nǹkan tí òyìnbó yóò ṣe rí ètò yìí ṣe ń gbà ni pé kò nímọ̀ nípa Ifá. èyí tó lọ kọ́ ní ilẹ̀ China, ní Asia, Ifá tí wọ́n ní ọ̀bọ̀, àwọn ìmọ̀ tí wọ́n rìn ilẹ̀ bíi ti ìṣẹ̀ṣe, bíi ti ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀ tí wọ́n mí báyìí. so ó ṣàgbìyànjú gbà yẹn. so ìtàn binary system ni àti ti ní Ifá. so èyí tá à ń pè ní Ifá mi báyìí ni àwọn China máa ń pè ní I Ching, ṣùgbọ́n tí wọ́n 64 base system ni, tiwa is 256. ti ìṣẹ̀ṣe ó rinlẹ̀ gan, ó tún kẹnu ju èyí tí táwọn China ń lò lọ. so a rí nǹkan gbòógì ìdìmú ìgbà ìsìn binary system tòyìnbó tá à ń pè ní the modern binary system, ètò àlejì ti ìgbàlódé, àti ètò àlejì ti Ifá, the Ifá binary system ti abáláyé tó wà láti ìgbà ìwáṣẹ̀. so a ti rí pé ìkan tí èyí tá à ń lò ní òde òní, ìyẹn nǹkan tó kó sínú ó kéré gan. ìṣirò àti ìmọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ nìkan ló wà, ìmọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ ayárabíàṣá nìkan ni ló dá lé lórí. ṣùgbọ́n ti Ifá, ti ìbílẹ̀, ti ìgbà ìwáṣẹ̀, gbogbo ẹ̀kọ́ ayé pátápátá ni ó wà níbẹ̀. ìyẹn dá dúró bẹ́ẹ̀. so kí ni à ń pè ní ìmọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ ayárabíàṣá tí òyìnbó ń pè ní computing? ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ẹ bá wa power tap, kẹ bá wa share live so that àwọn èèyàn púpọ̀ lè darapọ̀ mọ́ wa. mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ gbogbo ilé ẹṣẹ́ gan ni. so computing, ibi tí computing kọ́kọ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ ni pé ìgbà tí àwọn òyìnbó tó ti kọ́kọ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ láti ọ̀dọ̀ wọn, even though ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀ ló kọ́kọ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ computing. nǹkan tá à ń pè ní computer, the first computer láyé yìí ni Ifá ni the first computer. although àwọn èèyàn dúdú púpọ̀ wọn mọ̀ pé tí wọ́n mọ̀ pé ojú Ifá wọ́n mọ̀ pé kọ̀ǹpútà kan tó wá tó special ni jẹ́ pé ó ti wà kóyìnbó tó mọ̀ nǹkan tá à ń pè ní kọ̀ǹpútà. Ìgbà téèyàn bá ń ṣe ìwádìí, téèyàn bá ń ṣe ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ní orí kọ̀ǹpútà, téèyàn kọ́ nǹkan tá à ń pè networking, ẹ̀kọ́ networking, èèyàn ń ṣe ẹ̀kọ́ lórí electronics, a máa rí pé kéèyàn náà tó wá máa kọ́fá, èèyàn rí pé ṣe ló dá èèyàn rí dánilójú pé inú Ifá ló ti yọ gbogbo àwọn ìmọ̀ yẹn. The more tí wọ́n bá ṣe ń kọ́ àwọn ẹ̀kọ́ yẹn tó ń wọnú ẹ̀, èèyàn máa rí pé inú Ifá ló ti wá kó gbogbo àwọn ìmọ̀ yìí. So computing ni inú ìṣirò ni computing ti jáde. Nǹkan táwọn pè ní computer science lé ní computer engineering, inú mathematics ni wọ́n ti jáde. Torí ẹ̀ la ṣe máa rí pé àwọn òyìnbó táwọn pè ní Alan Turing ni o, bí àwọn Shannon, àwọn tó ṣe iṣẹ́ gbòógì ní computer science, mathematicians ni gbogbo wọn. So àwọn ló kọ́kọ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ computing. So to compute means to calculate. Kí la máa pe computing ní èdè abínibí wa? A lè ní pé ṣírò, a lè bẹ̀rẹ̀ láti bẹ̀, a lè ní ṣírò, that's tá bá ní computing, tá bá túmọ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn mí pé ká calculate nǹkan. Ibi tí computing ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ pé àwọn ìbò fẹ́ calculate, wọ́n fẹ́ ṣàgbékalẹ̀ ẹ̀rọ tí ó lè máa bá wọn máa ṣe ìṣirò nǹkan kíákíá tí wọ́n níṣẹ́ máa nígbà tí máa ṣiṣẹ́ púpọ̀. Torí so ibi tí computing ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ yẹn kó tó wá dín pé wọ́n máa ń ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ ẹ̀rọ oríṣiríṣi tí àwa ń lò ní èní. Àwọn èèyàn máa ń rò pé òyìnbó lọ́kọ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ iṣẹ́ yìí, ṣùgbọ́n àwọn ọba lọ́kọ́ kọ́kọ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ iṣẹ́ tá à ń pè ní science and tech gbára. Tá bá ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa kọ̀ǹpútà ń sìn, Ifá ni òrìṣà tó wà ní kọ̀ǹpútà. Ifá ni òrìṣà tó wà ní kọ̀ǹpútà. Tó bá yẹ pé kò ń ṣe àwọn ẹ̀sìn àjòjì lọ́kọ́ wá fún wa ni àti ìkónilẹ́rú gbogbo àwọn ìṣòro bẹ́ẹ̀, àwa náà àbá ti ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ gbogbo àwọn ẹ̀rọ yìí. Àwa la kọ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ kínní, torí ọ̀rọ̀ téèyàn bá ti wò ní ìbílẹ̀, tá bá ti ní ọ̀rọ̀ fún ní èdè abínibí wa, ìtumọ̀ yẹn ni pé kínní àti náà àṣà ló ti wà, òyìnbó kọ́ ló kó wá. Nísìn a ní ọ̀rọ̀ fún àwọn nǹkan tá à ń pè ní ẹ̀rọ, machine, a ní ọ̀rọ̀ fún náà à ń pè ní ẹ̀rọ. Tá bá dẹ̀ fọ́ ọ̀rọ̀ yìí ẹ̀rọ sí wẹ́wẹ́, a rí pé láti ibi ọ̀nà méjì ló ti wá, àti rọ. So tó bá ń rọ nǹkan sìn, àwọn pé àwọn tó máa ń rọ, tó bá ní wọ́n rọ góòlù, wọ́n rọ àwọn nǹkan oríṣiríṣi, àwọn pé àwọn alágbẹ̀dẹ ni. Ògún dẹ̀ ni ó kọ́kọ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ ètò yìí gbára. Ògún ni ló kọ́kọ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ nǹkan tó ń pè ní engineering, kọ́ máa rọ nǹkan irin, gbogbo àwọn irin oríṣiríṣi àlùrọ. So ẹ̀rọ, machine, so àwọn náà gbogbo àwọn nǹkan yìí inú ìṣẹ̀ṣe ló ti bẹ̀rẹ̀. Áfíríkà ni wọ́n ti bẹ̀rẹ̀, kí òyìnbó kó tó wá di pé gbogbo àwọn ìmọ̀ wa nǹkan wá tó kó lọ sọ́run, wọ́n á lọ ń study wọn, tó fi wá ní gbogbo àwọn táwọn náà fi wá ń ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ àwọn kìí tó jẹ́ pé ní ayé òde òní wọ́n ti wá lọ jù wá lọ. So Ifá gangan ni òrìṣà tó wà ní computing. Tá bá ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa computing, mathematics, internet, knowledge, anything about knowledge, language, gbogbo àwọn nǹkan bẹ́ẹ̀, Ifá ni òrìṣà tó wà níbẹ̀. So pẹ̀lú ìmọ̀ táwọn bàbá wa kọ́ wa, mojúbà àwọn àgbà, mojúbà o. Pẹ̀lú ìmọ̀ tí a kọ́, Ọ̀rúnmìlà ni irúnmọlẹ̀ tí ó specialize ní orí knowledge area tá à ń pè ní Ifá. Tí Ifá bá jẹ́, tá bá pè Ifá ní energy, universal energy of computing, mathematics, networking, enlightenment, knowledge and divination. So energy consciousness yẹn. So the entity tó wá specialize ní area yìí tó master ni à ń pè ní Ọ̀rúnmìlà. So àwọn bàbá náà dẹ̀ tó kọ́ à ń pè Ifá ní ọ̀rọ̀ Olódùmarè. So gbogbo area tá à ń ṣe yìí sí gbogbo computing ni gbogbo àwọn Ifá ní òrìṣà tó wà ní díẹ̀. So ideally tá bá fẹ́ ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ ètò ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ lórí computing, dáàmì sí pé a máa kọ́kọ́ àwọn ọba lọ́wọ́ la máa kọ́kọ́ lọ bá, àwọn ìyá nífà la máa kọ́kọ́ lọ bá, Ifá dẹ̀ la máa fi ṣe àgbékalẹ̀. Èyí ló gbé ètò tá à ń pè ní Ifá computing jáde. So níbi tí lára ibi táwọn láti ṣe láti ṣe àṣìṣe tó pọ̀ ní Áfíríkà ni pé gbogbo àwọn ètò tá a fi ń ṣe ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ òyìnbó ló mú wá fún wa. They imposed these systems on us. They did not come from our culture, from our traditions. Nítorí ìdí èyí, that's why they pé we are at the very very bottom in the world in terms of development, innovation. Torí gbogbo àwọn nǹkan báyìí ó yẹ kó wá láti inú àṣà àti ìṣe ni. We are not able to have benefit from transfer of knowledge. Gbogbo àwọn nǹkan táwọn bá wá ṣe, àwọn ìyá wa ṣe láti ìgbà ìwáṣẹ̀, a lè gbé wọn wá sí ayé òde òní pé wọ́n máa ń pè ní transfer of knowledge. Kò sí, you cannot build a civilization without tí àwọn èèyàn tí wọ́n bá ní tí transfer of knowledge ò bá ṣẹlẹ̀, láti mọ̀ táwọn èèyàn ti mọ̀ láti àwọn forefathers àwọn ancestors mọ̀, káwọn èèyàn wá build on it ní modern times. That's a major problem that we have in Africa, because we are not able to build on what our ancestors, the Irúnmọlẹ̀, the Orishas, what they achieved. So ideally, if you want to develop a curriculum for computer science, about any knowledge at all, you are supposed to start by studying IFA, by learning IFA from Babalawos, from Iyanifas, IFA priests and priestesses, because they're actually the custodian of this knowledge. There is no knowledge of science today. There is no knowledge of mathematics today that you don't find in IFA. But the most advanced, as I said in the last lecture, the most advanced field of mathematics today, it is called metamathematics. Metamathematics is going beyond mathematics. It's the mathematics of mathematics itself. That's when we are studying mathematics, all the theories, the models of mathematics, using mathematics itself. So that's the most advanced field, and they are generally called the theory of everything, TOE. They are called the grand unified theory. They are the most advanced field, and today, as of today, the Europeans have not built, they've not cracked. There is a problem in science, the problem of trying to unify the whole of mathematics together, the whole of physics together. They've not solved it. If you type the theory of everything on Google, there's a film on the theory, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the research area that is called the theory of everything, TOE. If you type it on Wikipedia, you're going to learn about its history. A number of scientists have been trying to crack the problem, from Albert Einstein, Stephen Hawking, Weinberg. Many of them many of them have been trying to solve it, and they did it for years before they died. They could not solve it. However, Orunmila had already tackled the problem using the Orisha philosophy. Àwọn bàbá wa àwọn nígbàgbọ́ pé ìmọ̀ fọ́ sí wẹ́lẹ́wẹ́lẹ́. Tá bá mú mathematics nísìnyí, bí Orunmila ṣe máa ṣe máàtì kọ́ ni àwọn òyìnbó ṣe ń ṣe. Bí Orunmila bá wo máàtì báyìí, Orunmila is going to start from orí máàtì ẹ̀nà àti ẹ̀wọ̀n kí nǹkan tá à ń pè máàtì fara ó ní orí tó ti wá ní spiritual realm. Ibẹ̀ ni Orunmila máa ti bẹ̀rẹ̀ from his very very source, from his soul. Torí nǹkan tá à gbogbo ìmọ̀ tá à ń kọ́lé ní gbogbo wọn ní soul wọn. Many people wọn mọ̀ pé àwọn ìmọ̀ yẹn ní soul wọn, ṣùgbọ́n wọ́n ní soul wọn. They have their own energy, their own consciousness. That is the focus of that's how Orunmila used to study any field of science. That was how our ancestors used to do science. They will start from the very source of that knowledge, from its soul. Wọ́n máa bẹ̀ láti orí ẹ̀, that orí là ń pè ní consciousness. By the time you tackle a problem from its source, then you are not going to come and encounter all this open problem in science, the problem of unification of knowledge, because you are not starting from the physical manifestation of that. You are starting from its very very source. What I get to fẹ́ solve the problem, tó bẹ̀rẹ̀ láti ìdí problem ẹ̀ gangan ibi tó ti ṣẹ̀ wá. Òyìnbó kẹ̀ àwọn máa ní ìdí yẹn, wọ́n máa ní it doesn't exist. That's the spiritual, they say it does not exist because they don't have knowledge up to that level. So they say there's nothing at the spiritual realm, that this universe is all that exists. That is why they have so many problems in open science, so many open problems in science. Even in mathematics, they have many of these problems because they are based on wrong foundation. They are not well developed. But if you study Ifá now, tá bá ṣe ìwádìí lórí Ifá, a rí pé nínú Ifá gbogbo ìmọ̀ ayé pátápátá èdè kan náà ni Ọ̀rúnmìlà fi máa ń ṣiṣẹ́ lórí gbogbo wọn. Àwọn àwọn ló máa ń sọ èdè yìí, àwọn babaláwo àwọn ìyáláwo ló máa ń sọ èdè yìí. Èdè yẹn èdè òun náà ni odù, òun ni a rí lórí fọ́nrán yìí. Èdè yìí tá à ń pè ní Ifá binary digit, èdè yìí ni Ọ̀rúnmìlà máa fi ń study gbogbo ìmọ̀ ayé. Tá bá rí ilé ìsìn, a rí ìlà Ifá yìí, à ń pè lè ní ìlà Ifá, ìlà Ifá, ojú lélẹ̀, òdì lélẹ̀. Ọ̀rúnmìlà ń sìn tó máa bẹ̀rẹ̀ láti study any field. So tó bá ti trace field yẹn to its very very source. So nǹkan tí tó máa define field yẹn bí i computer science sìn, they are going to say that field is an energy. They are going to start from the energy because every field of knowledge has its own aura, its own energy field around it. Ó ní aura ẹ̀. Aura yẹn sì ni Ọ̀rúnmìlà máa ti bẹ̀rẹ̀, that energy ló máa ti bẹ̀rẹ̀, and it's going to define it in terms of Ifá code, odù Ifá, Ogbe ni wọ́n máa fi ṣe. Tó bá bẹ̀rẹ̀ láti Ogbe yìí sìn, ìlà kan tó lò yìí, nǹkan tó ń sọ bẹ́ẹ̀ sí ni pé gbogbo kò sí bí computer science bó ṣe lè pọ̀ tó, kò sí bí computer science theories and models bó ṣe lè pọ̀ tó, gbogbo wọn pátápátá ibì kan náà ni wọ́n ti yan orí. Nǹkan tí ìlà kan yìí sọ fún wa nìyẹn. Ó sọ pé kò sí gbogbo theory of computation, model of computation, computing system bó ṣe lè pọ̀ tó láyé yìí, ní pé ibì kan náà they are all united, they are all one. That's why you see that this is one. Okay, but bàbá Ọ̀rúnmìlà mọ̀ pé gbogbo nǹkan láyé, báwọn bàbá ojúbà ẹ̀yìn àgbà bí wọ́n ṣe kọ́ wa, gbogbo nǹkan láyé méjì ni. Ìgbà téèyàn bá ń ṣiṣẹ́ ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ lórí àwọn ìmọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ nínú Ifá báyìí, ẹ̀kọ́ máa la tẹ́ bá tó wá lọ kọ́ ti òyìnbó náà, ẹ rí pé ti Ifá yẹn ó ti lọ gan, is actually miles ahead of the European, the Western knowledge. So méjì ni gbogbo nǹkan wà ní Elédùmarè dá gbogbo nǹkan according to the philosophy of Ifá, according to the philosophy of Ìṣẹ̀ṣe, the Òrìṣà philosophy. So ẹlòmíín sì ara ní pé it's not correct o, pé gbogbo ìmọ̀ tó wà láyé kò ń ṣe ibìkan náà ni gbogbo ti yan rí o. Okay, so Ọ̀rúnmìlà ti mọ̀ pé there are people that will disagree with what you say. So that's what this one represents, the double line. So eléyìí ni ojú, òdì. Téèyàn bá ní yes and no, gbogbo ìmọ̀ tó wà ní computer science ibìkan náà ni gbogbo ti yan rí, they are all the same, they are all interconnected, they are all unified, they are all one. That's what this one represents. That's yes. Okay, another person can disagree. That's what this one represents. So you now have this a system that it is a complete system. If you say what Ọ̀rúnmìlà is saying is not true, Ọ̀rúnmìlà has already addressed that your own perspective. If you say it is true, that's what the first one represents. So this one is Oju, this one is Odi. So that's why the expert of Ifá, Babalawos, and Yalo, they say Ifá is a complete system. If you say something is true, it's like you can say that by the time you are studying, it's like you are studying Boolean logic. Boolean logic that has yes, true and false. True. So in Ifá logic, this one is true, Oju is true, Odi is false. So what I'm just explaining, it is field of knowledge that we call Ifá computing. So Ifá computing, so you can see when you are studying Ifá, you should just have the picture of the mind that you are looking at a container, you are looking at a universe of something. If I say Ifá computing, it's different from the one that the Europeans do, that they just did their own. Their own scope is very very narrow, because they don't have the understanding of the source of all knowledge. Ṣùgbọ́n bàbá Ọ̀rúnmìlà ní ẹlẹ́rìí ìpín níbi tí gbogbo ìmọ̀ ayé tó ti ń yan rí. Bàbá Ọ̀rúnmìlà, he was the witness of it. He saw them when they were picking their destiny, bí tó ti ń yan rí wọn. So ìmọ̀ tí irúnmọlẹ̀ bẹ́ẹ̀ máa gbé kalẹ̀ ó máa yàtọ̀ sí àwọn tó yẹ pé wọ́n kàn ń study ìmọ̀ ní at the superficial, at the surface level. lọ́wọ́ pé nǹkan tó ń study gan ìmọ̀ díẹ̀ tó kọ̀ rí kó láti tó rí jú láti ilẹ̀ adúláwọ̀ láti ilẹ̀ Yorùbá ni wọ́n kàn fi ṣe gbogbo àgbékalẹ̀ àwọn ìmọ̀ wọn. Nǹkan tó wà bẹ́ẹ̀ ni pé tá a bá lo òrìṣà philosophy láti fi ṣe ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ láti fi kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́, a mọ̀ pé nǹkan tá à ń pè ní ìmọ̀fà rẹ̀ òrìṣà ni ìmọ̀fà rẹ̀ bí ṣe sọ ní ọ̀sẹ̀ tí kọjá. Tá a bá ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ìmọ̀ kọ̀ǹpútà, ìmọ̀ ìṣirò, ìmọ̀ ayélujára, nǹkan tó bá ti jẹ́ ìmọ̀, òrìṣà tó wà ní díẹ̀ bí ṣe sọ tẹ́lẹ̀ ni Ifá ni ó wà ní eléyìí là ń pè ní òrìṣà philosophy. Àmọ́ pé gbogbo ìmọ̀ tó wà láyé, ìmọ̀ tó yìnbó ń kọ́ àti èyí tí kò ń ṣe ìmọ̀ ló ní philosophy tó wà ní abẹ́ ẹ̀. Ṣùgbọ́n tá a bá fi òrìṣà philosophy láti inú Ifá láti ìṣẹ̀ṣe láti fi kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́, a máa rí ó máa dàbí ẹni pé a ṣẹ̀tún wá enter a new realm of knowledge entirely ni. For instance, tá a bá fi òrìṣà philosophy láti fi kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ tá à ń pè ní engineering, a máa bèèrè lọ́wọ́ wa ń sìn ni pé ta ni ẹni tó kọ́kọ́ ṣe ìmọ̀ yìí ní ilé ayé, ní ìṣẹ̀ṣe ní ilẹ̀ Yorùbá? So Ògún ni tó bá ti ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa engineering, a dárúkọ Ògún, Ọ̀ṣìnmọ̀lẹ̀, a dárúkọ Ọbàtálá mọ́rímọ́rí. So àwọn àgbà engineering nìyẹn. A mú Ọ̀ṣun. Ibi tá a ti máa bẹ̀rẹ̀ nìyẹn tá a bá ń fi ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ òrìṣà philosophy láti máa fi kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́. Ó yàtọ̀ sí ètò ti òyìnbó. Àǹfààní tí òrìṣà philosophy tó máa fún wa ni pé ó máa fún wa ní èdè kan. A máa ní èdè kan láti fi kọ́ gbogbo ìmọ̀ tó wà láyé. Òyìnbó tí ní ìmọ̀ wọn ti dé, òyìnbó tí wọn ti rí èdè kan tó yẹ pé wọ́n sì ń wá ni. Mo sọ lẹ́ẹ̀kan pé ọ̀gbẹ́ni Leibniz tó ṣe ètò modern binary system, tó ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ nígbà yẹn ní the 18th century. Ó ń try láti wá èdè kan tó yẹ pé ẹ lè fi kọ́ gbogbo ìmọ̀ tó wà láyé, bọ̀ kò rí ṣe. Kí ló tó dẹ̀ rí ṣe? Torí pé kò mọ Ifá ni. Ṣùgbọ́n tá a bá torí kò mọ philosophy tó yẹ kó lò, he didn't have the right knowledge of the correct philosophy to use. But in Ìṣẹ̀ṣe we have this philosophy. That's what the Ìṣẹ̀ṣe practitioners, the Ifá priestess used to do all their activities, their divination, everything. They use the Orisha philosophy. So if you use the Orisha philosophy to study, to learn any field, the major benefits, they are going to have a single language to study any knowledge at all. You are going to have a single language. You not encounter the problem of trying to unify the whole of mathematics like the Europeans they've been trying to do, or trying to unify the whole of physics like scientists like Albert Einstein, Faraday, Maxwell. Many of them they've been trying to do, but they could not do it because they are not using the right philosophy. Many of them they have denied their source. They say the spiritual realm doesn't exist. They've denied their source. So if you deny your source, then they are going to be cut off from a lot of things, and it's going to truncate their spiritual development. But now they gave us this system in Africa. We just took everything, hook, line, and sinker. But our own system in Africa is actually far ahead. It's actually miles ahead of the European systems of education. Our own system of education in Africa is based on the Orisha philosophy. So the Orisha philosophy involves entails looking at everything in nature, even nature itself as an Orisha. Gbogbo nǹkan báyìí tá a bá ti wọ̀n a máa rí wọn níbi òrìṣà kan ní eléyìí o. Tá a bá ń kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ nípa computing sí òrìṣà kan ní eléyìí o. Kí la dẹ̀ ń pè ní abínibí wa ń pè ní Ifá. Tá a bá ń kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ lórí psychology bí ṣe sọ ní ọ̀sẹ̀ tí ó kọjá, a rí àmọ́ pé òrìṣà kan ni à ń kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ lórí ẹ̀. Ẹni tó dẹ̀ kọ́kọ́ ṣe tó pioneer psychology ni àwọn máa ń pè ní Ayélálà. Àwọn babaláwo àwọn oníṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀ máa ń lo psychology of Ayélálà ní ọ̀pọ̀ ìgbà láti fi wá nǹkan tí ó bá sọnù. so Ayélálà gangan ni òrìṣà tó wà ní psychology. She was the first psychologist, she was the first psychotherapist. Èyí tẹ́ táwọn èèyàn máa sọ Sigmund Freud, Sigmund Freud, they were talking about Carl Jung. Káwọn èèyàn kan tó mọ nǹkan táwọn ń pè ní psychoanalysis, psychology, ni Ayélálà ti ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ psychology. Àwọn èèyàn wọ́n máa dẹ̀ ń lo psychology Ayélálà gan láti fi wá nǹkan, láti fi ṣe ìwòsàn. Tábà fẹ́ mọ̀ pa Ayélálà, tábà lọ sọ́dọ̀ àwọn tó máa ń bọ Ayélálà, a rí bó ṣe máa ń lo psychology Ayélálà láti fi ṣe ìwòsàn, láti fi ṣe lọ́ba fi tí nǹkan bá sọnù, àbáwọn tó bá ń tí àjẹ́ tó bá ń ní àlàkálà, so wọ́n máa lo ìmọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ psychology tí òrìṣà Ayélálà tó gbé kalẹ̀, wọ́n máa lò láti fi ṣe àwọn ètò yẹn. So binary number ni àwọn méjì náà ni òdo àti ení. Kí ni ìwúlò àwọn ètò yìí ní ẹ̀rọ ayárabíàṣá tá à ń pè ní kọ̀ǹpútà, àbí ẹ̀kọ́ ayárabíàṣá tá à ń pè ní computer science? Àwọn ni wọ́n máa fi ń ṣe aṣojú tó bá fẹ́ tí wọ́n máa fi ń ṣe aṣojú àwọn ìró information. If you want to store information, you want to manage information, we use these bits, these numbers, these digits to encode information. But these ones, their scope is very narrow. Their scope is narrow. It's only limited to the realm of computing, to the realm of mathematics. So they encode text, numbers, instructions. They are used to represent digital data such as images, audio, and video. They are also used to implement logic operations in computer processors. Lára àwọn nǹkan tó máa ń fi àwọn nǹkan yìí ṣe nìyẹn tá à ń pè ní alóèjì. Ẹ jẹ́ ká mọ̀ pé àwọn nǹkan tí a ní wọ́n pé oríṣiríṣi. A ní àwọn nǹkan alení das, àwọn yẹn ìkan ni wọ́n. A ní alèjì, a ní alẹ̀ta, alẹ̀rin títí dé alẹ̀wá, a ní alẹ́rìndínlógún, alẹ́rìndínlógún tí a ń pè ní hexadecimal system. Gbogbo àwọn ètò yìí ló ní ìwúlò fún íńtánẹ́ẹ̀tì, ẹ̀rọ ayélujára, gbogbo ẹ̀ ló ní ìwúlò. Tá bá wo ẹ̀rìndínlógún yẹn sin àwọn bàbá wa, àwọn ẹ̀rìndínlógún táwọn olóríṣà máa ń lò, àwọn Ọlọ́bàtálá, àwọn Eléṣù Ọ̀ṣun, àwọn olóríṣà ló máa ń lo ẹ̀rìndínlógún. Àwọn onífá ni wọ́n máa ń lo odù Ifá. So dáhùn náà bá ń wò sí, a rí pé kóyìnbó tó mọ nǹkan tá à ń pè ní hexadecimal system, base 16 ni àwọn Ọlọ́ṣun, ni àwọn olóríṣà, àwọn ìṣẹ̀ṣe, àwọn bàbá ti mọ, wọ́n ti ní ìmọ̀ yìí. So ó yí ṣe pàtàkì láti pé ká kọ́ ìmọ̀ yìí, ká kọ́ Ifá, ká mọ̀ ẹ̀rìndínlógún, ká lè tún kọ́ ìmọ̀ ìgbàlódé náà, kí a wá wo bá ṣe lè mú gbogbo ẹ̀, bí a ṣe lè lò wọ́n mọ́ra wọn, tó yẹ pé àwa náà fi máa ṣe ìgbékalẹ̀ àwọn ètò wa. A ní máa ní pé gbogbo tó òyìnbó bá ń ṣe ṣáà ni a máa kàn máa gbà wọlé. Nísìnyí òyìnbó wọ́n ti ń wá láti ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ quantum computer, wọ́n ti ń ṣe láti ìgbà díẹ̀, wọn ò tí ì rí ṣe. Gbogbo àwọn ètò yìí náà ni àwa náà lè fi Ifá, odù Ifá láti fi ṣẹ̀ṣẹ̀, láti fi ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ tí àwọn èèyàn tá bá padà sílé, kí a ká mọ̀ wúlò àṣà àti ìṣe wa, ká mọ̀ pé ìmọ̀ta nínú ìṣẹ̀ṣe ó rinlẹ̀, ó pọ̀ gan. Òyìnbó tiẹ̀ ní àwọn nǹkan ìmọ̀ díẹ̀ làwọn ní, ṣùgbọ́n díẹ̀ tí àwọn níyẹn a rí nǹkan àràmàdà tí wọ́n fi wọ́n ṣe. Ṣùgbọ́n àwa ta nímọ̀ èyí tó pọ̀ ní Áfíríkà, ó dàbí àwọn tó ní góòlù, bọ̀ wọ́n mọ̀ pé góòlù ni àwọn ní. Òkè téèyàn bá wo Ifá ń sìn, ẹ wo Ifá, ẹ jẹ́ ká wo odù Ifá ń sìn. Tá bá wò àwọn tí jẹ́ pé wọ́n mọ̀ nǹkan, jẹ́ pé wọ́n mọ̀ ọ̀tún yàtọ̀ sí òsì, àwọn kan ní àwọn kan ń kọ́ làjọ ni, wọ́n kàn ń ṣe superstition ni. Tá bá wo odù Ifá ń sìn, ṣe ẹ jẹ́ ká wo odù Ifá ń sìn, ká wo àwọn odù yìí láti èjì ogbè títí dé òfun méjì, àwọn ojú odù. Àwọn aláìmọ̀ kan á ní wọ́n ṣe ritual, wọ́n ṣe superstition, wọ́n ṣe voodoo, they are doing magic. Wọ́n mọ̀ pé ìmọ̀ yìí, nǹkan tí nǹkan tó tọ́jú sínú àwọn ìmọ̀ yìí ó ní agbára. Ẹni tí àwọn babaláwo, àwọn ìyá nífà, àwọn tó nímọ̀ lọ́lẹ̀ tú, lọ́lẹ̀ decode ẹ̀ láti mọ̀ pé kíní ò kì í ṣe ìlà lásán. Gbogbo èdè tó wà láyé yìí pátápátá ló wà nínú odù Ifá. Òun là ń pè ní the language of everything, LOE. Mo ṣe fọ́nrán kan lórí LOE. Gbogbo èdè ayé pátápátá ni ó wà nínú ẹ̀. The language of everything ni Ifá. Gbogbo kò sédè náà tí kò sí odù tí ó bí wọn. Bẹ́ẹ̀ làwọn babaláwo mojúbà àwọn àgbà lọ́ ṣe máa ń ní pé gbogbo èdè ayé ni bàbá Ọ̀rúnmìlà, gbogbo èdè ayé ni wọ́n mọ̀. Torí kò sí èdè náà, ó ní odù tí ó bí. Kí ó tó di pé èdè yẹn ó wá sí ilé ayé, ó ń ṣe ẹ̀mí ni. Ẹ jẹ́ ká mọ̀ pé àwọn èdè yẹn náà wọ́n ní àwọn nǹkan abẹ̀mí ni wọ́n. Àwọn yẹn máa ń rò pé bí àwọn lẹ́mìí, bọ̀ àwọn nǹkan abẹ̀mí ni wọ́n ní ayé tiwọn náà. Àwọn náà ní ayé tiwọn. There is a universe of languages. Gbogbo àwọn technology yẹn náà ó ní ayé táwọn náà ń gbé. Ó ní ayé tí wọ́n wà tẹ́ pé they are existing as conscious entities. Wọ́n láyé tiwọn náà. Gbogbo ìmọ̀ tó wà láyé ó ní ayé tí wọ́n wà. So kó tó di pé ẹ jẹ́ kí n lo táàmù àwọn onífá, àwọn babaláwo. Kó tó di pé àwọn ìmọ̀ yẹn, àwọn kíní yẹn wọ́n rọ̀ wá sí the physical realm. Ní wọ́n ti ní oníbọ́ṣe ẹ̀sìn tó wà tẹ́lẹ̀. Then gbogbo àwọn nǹkan yẹn lọ ní èdè wọn. So gbogbo èdè wọn sì ni à ń pè ní the language of everything. A tún lè pè ní Ifá language, Ifá lang. So òun ni a fi ń ṣe ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́, a fi ń ṣe ìgbékalẹ̀ ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ wa tá à ń pè ní the Ifá binary system of education. So a kàn máa ṣe ní surface level náà nítorí àwọn babaláwo, àwọn ìyá wa lọ ní ìmọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ ń pa ìmọ̀ ìsopọ̀. Ó ń ṣe nǹkan tí a lè gbé sórí internet. So a kàn máa ṣe introduction, a máa ṣe, so àwọn tó bá fẹ́ kọ́ ń pa ìmọ̀ dáadáa wọ́n máa need àti kọ́ Ifá. A kọ́ Ifá lọ́dọ̀ àwọn tí wọ́n mọ̀ Ifá. So bí yẹn ṣe wà nìyẹn. So tó lọ́la ṣe máa ń pe Ifá ní the language of everything. Ifá jẹ́ ètò tó yẹ pé a lè fi kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ lórí gbogbo ẹ̀kọ́. Kò bá jẹ́ physics ni o, kò bá jẹ́ mathematics ni o, gbogbo ẹ̀ la lè fi Ifá kọ́, la lè fi Ifá ṣe ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ní orí ẹ̀. So tá bá wo ẹjọ́ ẹni tẹ́ bá fẹ́ ṣe àfikún sí nǹkan tí mo sọ àbí tẹ́ ní ìbéèrè, ẹjọ́ ẹ send request láti wá sí òkè àbí kẹ́ type submission sí inú comment section. Ẹ ṣé gan. So tá bá wo odù Ifá yìí sìn, a rí pé ìlà kan àti ìlà méjì ni nǹkan tí à ń pè ní building block. Òun la fi mọ ètò yìí. Òun ni building block, òun la fi mọ wọ́n. So tó yẹ la ṣe máa ń ní pé èjì ogbè àti ọ̀yẹ̀kú méjì ni ó bí gbogbo àwọn odù tí ó kù. So tó yẹ la yẹ ní tá bá ní Ifá computing, àwọn building block yẹn la fi máa ní focus wa. Torí àwọn ni èjì ogbè, àwọn ló bí gbogbo àwọn ìtókù. Òjì ogbè yìí sí tá bá ṣe iṣẹ́ lórí ẹ̀, tá ṣe operation lórí ẹ̀, tá invert ẹ̀, that we did an inversion operation. It's a mathematical operation on it. You are going to get ọ̀yẹ̀kú. Now when we compose these two, tá bá ṣe àmúlò wọn, àmúlò lè ó lágbára ju àwọn àmúlò tó kù lọ. Tá bá ṣe àmúlò that's tí àwọn ilé tó bá mate, if they copulate, we put ọ̀yẹ̀kú and èjì ogbè together. We compose them together. Ó máa fún wa ní ìwòrì. A rí ìwòrì ń sìn, a rí single line, double line, single line, òdì náà gbogbo ẹ̀ títí dé òfun. So a rí pé gbogbo àwọn eléyìí sìn, the building blocks of everything from ìwòrì méjì to òfun is ogbè and ọ̀yẹ̀kú. So a rí pé gbogbo àwọn láti ìwòrì títí dé òfun náà bí a special kind of àmúlò ni wọ́n. But àmúlò tí wọ́n lágbára ju àwọn àmúlò ìtókùtà ìpè tó bẹ̀rẹ̀ láti gbogbo ìyẹ̀kú títí dé ọ̀sẹ̀ fún tí mi bá ṣe mistake ní ètò 256th Odu, that should be Ofunse, sorry. So láti bẹ̀rẹ̀ sí dé ìyẹn ní last one, Ofunse ní last one. So àwọn yẹn ń sìn àmúlù, àwọn yẹn gangan làwọn babaláwo máa ń pè ní àmúlù, ṣùgbọ́n àwọn ojú odù yẹn náà àmúlù náà composition náà ni wọ́n fi get wọn, lọ́ fi derive wọn. So lára mathematics inú Ifá nìyẹn. So àwọn tí ojú odù yẹn àmúlù tá a máa pa àwọn yẹn máa ń yàtọ̀ sí ẹ̀ta àwọn babaláwo máa ń pè ní àmúlù gangan, so that kò ní sí confusion, kò ní sí ambiguity. So tá a bá wo nǹkan tá à ń pè ní Ifá computing nísìnyí ni pé ká máa fi the Ifá binary digits à ń pè lè ní Ifá 0. ṣé kìíní ẹ jọ̀ọ́ ṣé à ń rí screen mi dáadáa? Is it clear? Is it bold? Or maybe I should try to embolden it. Can we see the characters on my screen? Is it bold or is too tiny? If it's too tiny, you can use the full screen option of our TikTok app. Excuse me. Yes, TikTok asked me to verify something. So if you look at if the picture is too tiny, you can use the full screen option. You can enlarge it. I'll enlarge it lórí TikTok app wa, so that àwọn numbers yẹn á lè wà clear. So a ti mọ we are familiar with the binary number tí òyìnbó ni binary number òyìnbó ni à ń pè ní bit, binary digits. Ìyẹn mo ti kọ́kọ́ sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ẹ̀ tẹ́lẹ̀. Ìyẹn ló wà nígbà tí òyìnbó lélẹ̀. So tòyìnbó ni binary number tòyìnbó ni agbóbá tẹ́lẹ̀. So tòyìnbó lélẹ̀ 0 and 1. You can see it on the screen. Bit. This is the modern binary system. These are the tools that power our computer, our digital technologies. The one in Ifá is single and double line that we can see on the screen. Single and double line. Èdè Ifá ni gbogbo nǹkan táwọn òyìn sìn Ifá binary system nílé tí bàbá Ọ̀rúnmìlà tí wọ́n ṣe àgbékalẹ̀. Bí n ṣe sọ tẹ́lẹ̀, eléyìí gbogbo ẹ̀kọ́ ayé pátápátá ni ó kó sínú. Tí òyìnbó computing mathematics nìkan ní sìn, but Ifá àti physics o àti art o àti dáṣẹ bá rà àwọn ọ̀bálọ̀ tí wọ́n bá gbé Ifá kalẹ̀, tó bá gbé ọ̀pọ̀lọ̀ ìjọlẹ̀, tó bá ṣe ìdáfá, a rí pé odù yẹn gbogbo àwọn odù tí wọ́n máa ń jáde yẹn gbogbo àkórí ọ̀rọ̀ oríṣiríṣi náà máa ń dálé lórí. Ìmí ó lè jẹ́ odù èmi lè sọ̀rọ̀ nípa marriage, the same odù lè sọ̀rọ̀ nípa marriage, pẹ́ẹ́ lómi ìtura kó sọ̀rọ̀ nípa health, different subjects ni wọ́n máa ń sọ̀rọ̀ nípa ẹ̀ torí the versatile system ni the Ifá binary system, unlike the modern binary system that was developed by Gottfried Leibniz that only focuses on mathematics and computing. So tìbílẹ̀ lílé yìí sìn ìyẹn tún gbèrò ó tún rinlẹ̀ ju ti òyìnbó lọ. So tìbílẹ̀ yìí sìn ojú òdì single and double line ìlàfà àwọn ìlàfà méjì ni the Ifá binary number wọn là ń pè ní the Ifá bit, Ifá binary bit. So Ifá computing ni this is the core of Ifá computing. Torí ẹ̀ lẹ́yìn pé la ṣe ń pe the old Ifá as an ancient computer, as the very first computer. Tábà ṣe ẹ̀kọ́ lórí ìtàn ẹ̀rọ ayárabíàṣá, the history of computing, in many of the books they are going to tell us that the first computer was the abacus that was developed circa 3,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, Egypt and the likes. But before that period we had Ifá that had been existing for thousands and even millions of years, and that was actually the very first computer. And you know why the Ifá system is so wondrous is that it's actually even far ahead of the most advanced computers of today, because think about more tí wọ́n bá ní mọ̀ pa ti Ifá èèyàn lè fi build ọ̀rẹ́ àwọn kọ̀ǹpútà tá à ń lò sí èèyàn lè fi build new kind of computer tó yẹ pé òyìnbó gan tí ì ní mọ̀ quantum computer ń sìn there is quantum physics in Ifá, there is quantum computing in Ifá. So IFA is a universe of computational systems, theories, and models. Unlike the one of European that is very, very narrow, their own scope is narrow. Even though about universal computer, when Alan Turing was the pioneer of computing in the West. When he invented his Turing machine, the first one of the earliest computers then, he was talking about universal computation, universal computer. Even universal computer tó ń sọ yẹn kò lágbára tó tinú Ifá, kò sínú Ifá ó cut across all realms of knowledge. So tá bá wo this is Ifá bit. So tá bá ń pe Ifá computer, tá bá ń pe Ifá ní the Ifá computer, it's not that we are just hyping it or we are just promoting it or we are just being or maybe it's a misnomer where I conform nǹkan tó sì ń bẹ. It's actually a real computer that tó yẹ pé tá bá farabalẹ̀ study ẹ̀ a máa fi ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ àwọn ẹ̀rọ oríṣiríṣi. Ṣùgbọ́n Ifá is actually more than a computer. It's not like our normal computer, the normal system that we are using now. They are called classical computers. That means they operate on classical bits 0 and 1. The scientists have been trying to build a more powerful computer that is called quantum computer. Those ones, they operate on 0 and 1 at the same time. A classical computer, our computer that we are using now, it can only operate on 0 or 1. You can only choose one of them. But quantum computer can operate on both 0 and 1 at the same time, simultaneously. That's why its own computation is much faster. So that is the realm of quantum computing. Please let us part up and share the live. At least the lecture is about 1 hour now. So please let's part up and share the live. So that is quantum computer. But how is Ifá computing? How is it different from classical computing and quantum computing? There are also other types of computing. We also have biocomputing. Biocomputing involves using neurons, using nerve cells to build a sophisticated computer. That's the biocomputing. Kọ́ máa fi àwọn èròjà náà ọpọlọ, àwọn nerves, àwọn tissues, living tissues kọ́ máa fi máa develop a computing system. That's biocomputing. But gbogbo ẹ̀ ni ó ní òdì tí ó bímọ, gbogbo ẹ̀ ní Ifá ni ó wà nínú Ifá. Ìmọ̀ ẹ̀ ní ọ̀pọ̀ èèyàn ò ní, kò ń ṣe pé kò sí, ìmọ̀ ẹ̀ ní ọ̀pọ̀ èèyàn ò ní. So there's a difference between something lacking, that's absent, and not having the knowledge. So the problem in Africa, in Yoruba, is that many people don't have the knowledge, and because we don't value our own system, we don't value our own culture. So this is the Ifá binary system. Is very, very powerful. You can use this single and double line to talk about physics. It's a language. You call it the Ifá language. You can use it to talk about mathematics, talk about computing, talk about neuroscience, talk about any field of knowledge, arts, whether it is in science or non-science. The same language is Ifá uses the same language, and that language is highly mathematical. It's not like Europeans. Even the European science is so wonderful to the extent that nínú máàtì yẹn gan ìṣirò táwọn ń pè ní ìmọ̀ ìjìnlẹ̀ ìṣirò, mathematical science, wọ́n tún pín sí wẹ́lẹ́wẹ́lẹ́ bẹ́ẹ̀ pé tẹ́ bá ti lọ sí algebra, èdè tó ń sọ ní algebra yàtọ̀ sí èdè geometry. Tẹ́ bá lọ sí analysis, èdè tí wọ́n tún yàtọ̀ sí. Tẹ́ bá lọ sí kí ló ń pè, tẹ́ bá lọ mathematical logic. Different areas of mathematics, they even have different languages in the same field. Can you see the problem of the silo approach to knowledge? Breaking knowledge into fragments, fragmenting knowledge. And it shouldn't be. Knowledge is whole. In Ifá, everything is unified with mathematics, with science, pure science. That is not magic. It's not no wuru. If you actually take your time to study it, you are going to, and then the knowledge is going to reveal itself to you. So these digits, you can use them to represent information on any subject, any field. Now the enterprise of doing this, the practice of doing this is what we call IFA coding. But let us bear in mind that we are not talking about theory. It's actually something that the IFA page they do every time. Anytime they are doing IFA divination, they are doing IFA computing, they are doing mathematics. It's not that, yes, knowledge is supposed to be old. If you want to, you have to first recognize that knowledge is old. Everything is connected before you can now start to discover how they now give rise to parts, to different segments. But you first have to understand the interconnection. It is from the interconnection you should now get the fragments. It's not that you first fragment knowledge, you now try to unify, bring everything back together again. So, and you know that many of the problems we are facing in Africa, in modern society, is due to the way knowledge is structured. Many, if not all the problems we are facing in the world today, the problem of corruption in Africa, poor healthcare, is the way knowledge is structured. You are not studying using the right approach, using the right method that our ancestors devised. The master plan they laid down to us, that is called the IFA, we are not following it. We have abandoned the real knowledge. Wọ́n ti fi panda, wọ́n ti fi gba góòlù lọ́wọ́ wa. They've told us that our own systems, they are evil, they are demonic. And you see, this new knowledge that we develop now, this IFA mathematics, this IFA bit, if in Yoruba, in Africa, we don't take it seriously, the Europeans, they will still come to steal that knowledge and come back to sell them to us again. That's just the most pathetic thing. In fact, I've started seeing some Europeans, they're already using they started using our system, and many of them are even sent. Many of them have sent a request to me that I should come and join the research group to develop the system. They are developing IFA now as a formal system of mathematics. Yes, some people that want to verify, I can send you some research papers that some Americans they just released. They just released a preprint. That's the publication of them last month. I saw 2 last month. Because this is a research area in science that is an open problem in science that they've not been able to tackle. But the solution is in IFA, and the solution is all these IFA binary digits. IFA, we call it IFA numbers, but they are not like your normal number, like our number that human ṣe òǹkà. Àwọn eléyìí òrìṣà ni àwọn eléyìí. They are meta numbers. They are more than mere numbers. They are I can say they are divine elements. When this man discovered all these kind of special numbers in ancient Egypt, in Kemet, Pythagoras, he now formed the cults that they were worshipping numbers. People that know the history of mathematics, they will know that history, that the Pythagoras cult. We should know that the Pythagoras theorem, the theorem that is credited to Pythagoras, had actually been developed by our ancestors in Africa, even in Mesopotamia as well. Before Pythagoras, it was even taught in Kemet. He learned it in Kemet. Then he discovered those special numbers. He now formed the cult. Their own cult was called it wọ́n gan ní agbára. Ẹni tó bá kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ ní Pythagoras cult, kó wá kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ wọn, kó wá lọ gbé síta. That person wọ́n máa excommunicate ẹni, and that person is even a threat to his life. Tó bá kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ bí wọ́n ṣe ń kọ́ ẹ̀kọ́ ní ìtànsìn, tó bá gbé ẹ̀kọ́ jáde láti inú awo Pythagoras, tó wá gbé lọ síta, tó wá lọ káwọn èèyàn, ẹni yẹn wàhálà náà wọ́n máa excommunicate ẹni, ó ti di wọ́n máa ní kò ń ṣe ọmọ awo ọmọ kóòtù wọn mọ́. To show how they took numbers very, very seriously, because some numbers are actually powerful. So we have tons and tons of different kind of numbers in mathematics. We have natural numbers that we used to count every day. We have integers. Integers are whole numbers, then whole numbers with the negation of whole numbers. Then we have 0 to it. Then we have integers. So integers, we can often see them as whole numbers, but they're actually more than just whole numbers. We have complex numbers. We have even more than numbers that are even much more complex than that. They are called hypercomplex numbers. So there are many of them, and people keep on discovering new kinds of numbers. But all these, there are some numbers that are actually much more powerful than those ones. Those numbers, we call them IFA numbers. Those ones, they put all those numbers, they put them in a container. Wọ́n kó wọn sínú àpò. Àwọn yẹn la ń pè ní IFA number. Àwọn yẹn gbogbo number ni wọ́n kó sínú. So those numbers, they are not just your normal numbers, they are actually divine aspects, they are orishas. So that's what we call the orisha philosophy. And you see, the importance of those special numbers is that you can use them to study all fields of knowledge in a holistic manner. So àwọn náà ni àwọn là ń pè ní IFA 0 and IFA 1. So this is the core of IFA computing. So téèyàn bá process àwọn kìíní sí wọ́n ní formula wọn, téèyàn bá fi formula yìí process information. That's what I call it the IFA information theory. Excuse me. We also have the IFA AI as well. You can use IFA to build many fascinating things. We have IFA ethics. Where is IFA information? So we have the IFA information theory. We should know that there is a theoretical framework that underlies our computing, our internet, our digital communication. It is called information theory. So IFA also has its own version of this theory that is actually much more powerful. So you can see that I made mention of the DAFA. I said you have IFA plus IFA data. Yes, you have data plus IFA. So let me just explain the DAFA model here. It's called the DAFA. This is the IFA information theory. There's a system that we call information theory in computing, in information science. Sorry, not information, in engineering, in electronics. The only ètò tó yẹ pé wọ́n fi ṣàgbékalẹ̀ àwọn kí ló ń pè wọ́n àwọn ìbánisọ̀rọ̀ olóǹkà tá à ń pè ní digital communications. So information theory yẹn ni wọ́n fi ṣe àgbékalẹ̀. Is a major tool that was used to develop those technologies, and the system was built by the theory was developed by Shannon. People that did computer science, they will know the person that is called Shannon. So was an American. But IFA also has its own system. Tẹ́ pé òun làwọn bá lọ́ọ́ máa fi ń ṣe ìdáfá tó bá ń dáfá lọ́wọ́ tó bá náà fẹ́ bá fá sọ̀rọ̀. Ọpọ́n fáyẹn kọ̀ǹpútà ni ó ní framework tiẹ̀ tí àwọn bá lọ́ọ́ máa ń lò. So tí òun ni à ń pè ní the DAFA model, we call it data plus IFA. Data is your normal data, the issue that you have, the problem. When you go to an IFA page for divination, for consultation, the problem that you have, the issue that you want to present, we call that data, raw data. That's just information that is not structured. Now, when you now use the IFA numbers that I showed earlier, the IFA bit, and the mathematical formulas based on those formulas, to work on the data that is supplied to the IFA page, to work on it, to manipulate it, to process it. You say you are processing that data in IFA language. IFA language ni àwọn binary. So after bá fi èdè IFA láti fi ṣe iṣẹ́ lórí àwọn nǹkan tó yẹn gbé lọ fún babaláwo yẹn. As you use the language, the IFA bit, the mathematics of IFA to process that data. Then the output is going to give you DAFA. So you have the data is transforming to DAFA. So DAFA is the unit of information in an IFA computer. So you can see the data is data. DAFA is data plus IFA. So we are just applying IFA language, IFA mathematics on data. So that is what gave birth to the IFA computer. The smallest unit of DAFA in an IFA computer is called IFA bit. So IFA bit ni taba mú ògbè là ń pè ní IFA bit. Taba mú ògbè nsìn. Taba ń sọ̀rọ̀ bit ní mathematics. We are using the philosophy that we call reductionism. Taba ń gbọ́ bit. Taba ń gbọ́ atom, molecule ní mathematics, ní science. The philosophy that actually underlies that is called reductionism. Reductionism ni kéèyàn máa fọ́n kan sí wẹ́wẹ́ kéèyàn wá mọ báwo ni so àwọn ẹ̀rún yẹn téèyàn bá fọ́ kílẹ̀ sí wẹ́wẹ́ báwo ni àwọn ẹ̀rún yẹn ṣe papọ̀ láti lè di gbogbo nǹkan yẹn lódindi. But that kind of reductionism reducing something to the most basic unit. You are looking for the fundamental unit, the constituent of that thing, àwọn nǹkan tí ó rò pọ̀ láti fi di nǹkan yẹn. But that kind of reductionism. But Ifá náà ní reductionism ti tiẹ̀. Even though Ifá is not a reductionist, is not a reductionistic system. Òyìnbó ló máa ń ṣe reduction. The one in Ifá is holistic. But Ifá also has its own. You can also there's also the reductionism. Gbogbo philosophy ayé pátápátá ni ó ní odù tí ó bí wọn. So tá a bá sọ̀rọ̀ pa odù tó bí reductionism, then that is going to give us the Ifá philosophy that we call Ifá reductionism. Ifá reductionism ni pé ká bẹ̀rẹ̀ láti Ogbè yìí sìn a rí pé Ifá beat ni à ń pe àwọn ìlà yìí ìlà ẹlòmíì lè pè tẹ̀ ní akọ, ẹlòmíì lè ní òbí ni, bọ̀ká ní akọni ilé, òbí ni ilé, akọni ilé, òbí ni kejì ẹ̀ yìí. So tá bá mú Ogbè yìí sìn tá bá fọ́ sí wẹ́wẹ́ a rí pé ìlà mẹ́rin ló wà nínú ẹ̀, mẹ́rin yẹn ló fún wa ní Ogbè. So that means ìlà kan ló kéré jù níbẹ̀ yẹn. Ìlà tó kéré jù yẹn sì là ń pè ní Ifá beat. Ifá beat is written in lower case. Lower case à ń sọ ní pé a ti fọ́ kíní yẹn sí wẹ́wẹ́ kò lè fọ́ sí wẹ́wẹ́ ju bẹ́ẹ̀ yẹn lọ. Nǹkan tó tún wà nínú Ifá beat ni pé tá bá fọ́ system Ifá yẹn sí wẹ́wẹ́ pátápátá nǹkan tá máa gẹ́ẹ̀tì òrìṣà náà ní nǹkan yẹn. The whole system itself is an òrìṣà. Tá bá tó wá fọ́ sí wẹ́wẹ́ kínkínní tó kéré jù bẹ́ẹ̀ òrìṣà náà ni. The same thing that is happening at the large scale is also occurring at the smallest of scales. That is what is called Ifá reductionism, Orisha philosophy. So this one now, we now see that four of the Ifá beats make up Ogbe. We know that in computer science we call a beat in a beat we have in a byte we have eight bits. One byte is going to contain 8 bits. Bit yẹn là ń pè ní ẹ̀ka. Byte yẹn tá bá fẹ́ fọ́ọ̀mù byte nísìn a ní láti máa kó ẹ̀ka mẹ́jọ jọ ẹ̀ka jọ bí ọ̀jọ̀gbọ́n sáyẹ́nsì Yorùbá Adébáyọ̀ tó ṣe ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ ní orí ṣàgbékalẹ̀ ètò yìí. Tá bá kó ẹ̀ka mẹ́jọ jọ a ní ẹ̀ka jọ a fún wa ní 1 byte. Ìyẹn ní computing information theory tí àwọn tó ṣe computer science tí wọ́n mọ̀. A lè tún pè ní ẹ̀ka a pè ní ẹ̀ka jọ. I think my system is slow. I have to go and put on the gen now. So a lè tún pè ní ẹ̀ka jọ. So ẹ̀ka jọ ń sìn ní 1 byte. So nínú Ifá náà ní títí ẹ̀ Ifá ní beat tiẹ̀ ó ní byte tiẹ̀. Èyí ni à ń pè ní Ifá beat and Ifá byte respectively. Ifá beat ní ẹ̀ka Fá. Òun náà ni òun là ń wò ní ojú fọ́nrán yìí. Òun ní ìlà Fá méjì ní ẹ̀ka Fá. Ifá byte ń sìn ní ìsìn tábà tó wá compare méjì ń sìn a rí pé nínú èjì Ogbè ń sìn nínú odù kan ẹ̀ka mẹ́jọ ló máa ń wà nínú ẹ̀. Èyí ló fi hàn gẹ́lẹ́ pé odù Ifá kọ̀ǹpútà kan ní àyè ọ̀tọ̀ tó dá wà láyé ọ̀tọ̀ tiẹ̀ tó tún wá ní agbára ju tòyìnbó lọ. So tá bá ń sọ pé Ifá kọ̀ǹpútà kò ṣe pé a kàn ń fẹnu sọ lásán. It's actually a fact. It's actually a science. It's a computing science on its own. So we see that Ejogbe, if you take Ejogbe now, if you look at my cursor here, if you take Ejogbe, you are going to see 8 of these Ilafa there. This single, you are going to see 8 of them there. You have 4 on one section, you have 4 on the other section. That is Ekajofa Ifá byte. One Ifá byte is going to give us 8 Ifá beats. You are seeing 8 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 8 of them. ẹ̀kàjọ yìí ẹ̀kàjọ fá ní mẹ́jọ àwọn ẹ̀ka yìí tá à ń pè ní IFA bit. A mọ̀ pé nínú computing tá a ṣe àwọn tó ṣe computer science ní school tó ṣe computer engineering àbí electronics, a mọ̀ pé half a byte we call it nibble, nibble, that's half a byte. Half a byte is nibble. Half a byte now is just 4. We know that a byte is a byte has 8 bits, right? In a byte we have 8 of them, 8 binary digits, 8 bits. But if we now have 4, just 4 digits, 4 of them, that we call that nibble. I type it in the comment section. So that is Moki Wogbo. Yes, thank you. Mojuba fún ẹ̀yin àgbà. Thank you for joining the program. Ẹ ṣé gan tí ẹ darapọ̀ mọ́ wa. So I'll be rounding up now so that people that want to make 1 or 2 submissions, so if there's any question, you can always ask. So I want the session to be collaborative and interactive. So ẹ ṣé gan ni. So we have IFA nibble. So that means IFA nibble is going to contain 4 IFA bits, right? There's going to be 4 of those IFA lines there. So tá bá mú èjì ògbè ńsìn, èjì ògbè méjì, tá bá mú section column kan báyìí ńsìn, nibble kan nìyẹn, IFA nibble kan nìyẹn, ìyẹn là ń pè ní ògbè. Tá bá mú kejì, ìyẹn another nibble náà nìyẹn, ìyẹn ní ògbè ìkejì ẹ̀ nìyẹn. Méjèèjì ńsìn ló wá fún wa ní the IFA byte that we call èjì ògbè. That's IFA computing nìyẹn. Now gbogbo àwọn ìtàn ṣe ń sìn, we are computing using energy la fi ṣe computation òrìṣà ní à ń lò wí báyìí. Tí òyìnbó, they use the philosophy that we call reductionism ni àwọn máa ń lò. Tẹ́ bá ń gbọ́ bit reductionism la máa ń pè ní philosophy. That's we are looking for the component, the basic unit of something, reductionism. But generally in IFA computing we use òrìṣà philosophy. If you want to understand IFA, tí wọ́n bá fẹ́ mọ àwọn babaláwo sì àwọn ló máa ń lo òrìṣà philosophy. Gbogbo nǹkan táwọn babaláwo máa ń ṣe láti òkè délẹ̀, òrìṣà philosophy ló máa ń lò. Òrìṣà philosophy ní agbára gan. Tí wọ́n bá tẹ̀ ń study every day, you can only know very very small part of it because there are so many òrìṣàs. Ọ̀ṣun sìn, yèyé Ọ̀ṣun ní philosophy ti tiẹ̀, Ọbàtálá ní ti tiẹ̀, Ọya ní tiẹ̀, Ògún ní tiẹ̀, Ọ̀rúnmìlà ní tiẹ̀. Gbogbo wọn ní philosophy ló ní philosophy wọn. Ifá gbogbo wọn ní philosophy ló ní philosophy wọn. Ifá ló wá kó gbogbo ẹ̀ papọ̀ as an information system. So mélòó ni wọ́n fẹ́ study tó yàn bá mú tọ̀ṣun nìkan sí tó bá ń study ní àwọn máa ṣe you do field trip, go and visit people that worship Ọ̀ṣun devotees. You are going to learn a lot. You can someone can even devote his own life to just studying the philosophy of Ọ̀ṣun alone. So philosophy is very very deep. It's not something that téèyàn lè mọ̀ tán. So you can only know very small part of it as a scholar, as a researcher. So that's the IFA computing is actually based on òrìṣà philosophy. Yes, thank you. Ìmọ̀, yes, ìlànà báwọn òrìṣà ṣe máa bí òrìṣà ṣe máa rí nǹkan yàtọ̀ sí bí àwa modern humans ṣe máa rí nǹkan. Àwọn they look at things from many perspectives. Then àwọn máa ń rí nǹkan very very deep. Like if you study the òrìṣà philosophy of Ọ̀rúnmìlà now, his own is dual. His own is going to look at the evolution of that thing from the spiritual realm, from the metaphysical dimension, and how that thing manifested physically. So it's dual approach. It's the holistic approach. That's the òrìṣà philosophy of Ọ̀rúnmìlà. It's a unique approach of Ọ̀rúnmìlà. Ọ̀ṣun also has her own. Ọbàtálá òun náà ní tiẹ̀. Gbogbo wọn ṣe ní philosophy tiwọn nìyẹn. Although there are similarities, but their school of thought, their world views are actually very very quite different. So So that is the from the original philosophy now we also have Ifá reductionism. Ifá náà ní reductionism ti tẹ̀ tó yẹ pé téèyàn bá ń mú àwọn odù yìí we look at the component that make the content of each of them. So ogbe ìlà kan that's we call it Ifá beats lower case Ifá beats lower case. There's a difference between upper case and lower case Ifá. This Ifá beat ni ìlà kan lélẹ̀ òun ló kéré jù nínú Ifá system odù Ifá. That's ìlà kan ni akọ ni ìlà kan òbí ni ìlà méjì. It's dual, we call it dual in mathematics in category theory. The dual of that ni méjì. Tá bá mú òbí àti akọ tí àwọn méjì tí wọ́n bára wọn lò pọ̀ ló máa bí àwọn 14 tó kù láti ìwòrì títí dé òfun. Tá bá tún wá ṣe the same thing náà pẹ̀lú àwọn tàbábẹ̀ láti èjì ògbè àtúnṣe àmúlò àwọn èèyàn àtúnṣe àmúlò gbà àwọn tó kù lọ máa bí the remaining 240. So it's just mathematics we are doing. It's just computing and we call it Ifá computing. So tá bá ní ìbéèrè ẹ jẹ́ kí n mọ̀. So that is just an introduction to Ifá computing. It's very very vast. So what are we doing all these things I've been explaining? We call it Ifá coding. It's what we use to study all fields of knowledge. So we also have Ifá beat. Ifá beat ni ìyẹn yàtọ̀ sí lower case. The difference between the two of them is that the smallest unit in the Ifá system ni line kan ìlà kan ìyẹn ni lower case yẹn. Now tá bá mú ìlà kan báyìí tá mú lọ́nà mẹ́rin á fún wa ní ogbè ìyẹn sì ló máa fún wa ní Ifá beat tí mo kọ sílẹ̀. Ìlà ti kejì yẹn mẹ́rin kejì yẹn is just a clone of the other one. Now many people when they look at this thing they don't know the people that are not babalawos, they don't know the implication of the when they just see the clone they just see a ní ògbè méjì àbí táwọn bá ṣe ìdánilẹ́kọ̀ọ́ náà máa jẹ́ ká mọ̀ pé méjì ni Ọlọ́run dá gbogbo nǹkan. But why is that so? It's just mathematics. Each person you are looking at here has a copy in the non-physical dimension. That is what this one is telling us. That tá bá mú kankan báyìí tá bá mú anything báyìí ó ní ìdàkejì ẹ̀ ní ọ̀run. That tí tó wà láyé is just ẹ̀dá tí ọ̀run yẹn ni. It's just a copy of that one. It's a simulation of that one. So as I studying computer science as a field now, computer science also has its own source, its own copy. The one we are studying is just a copy of that one in the non-physical dimension. It's a special kind of mathematics. We call it Ifá mapping or Ifá transformation. So like you are just cloning something. So that's why you see all this. They are all in twos. They are in twos. So when yes, positive and negative. We have a joke kumeji. So the one is positive, the one is negative. Yes, you can look at it roughly that way. But by the time we delve deeper into the mathematics, we are going to see we have a special time for the one in Ifá. The one in Ifá we don't use positive and negative for it. But we can look at when we start from there. We start from positive and negative. So, but when we now go deeper, the one in Ifá, because the one in Ifá has positive, negative, is up, down, on, off, many dualities like that. It's a universe of them. It's a universe of all dualities. Universe. So it's not just simple. It's not just a simple matter of positive and negative. Yes, yes, it's a universe of it. Duality in positive, negative, male, female, up, down, life, death, universe uncountable. So to òyìnbó ló máa wà restricted to just narrow dimension like on positive, negative. Universe in is a all possible. Yes, you just universe of duality. Anything about zero, ó wà ní Ifá. Tó bá ní positive, negative, ó wà ńbẹ̀. Tó bá ní on and off, ó wà ńbẹ̀. Tó bá ní zero and one, so ẹ wá ní pé ti ifá ó kẹnu yes eré àti ibi tí ifá ó rinlẹ̀ ju ti modern binary system. Modern binary system is just 0 and 1, but ifá is a universe of things like that. 0 and 1, open and close, on and off, true and false, anything duality, life and death, good and bad, everything is there. The modern binary system is restricted to just 0 and 1. So you can see that while one is a children, the other one is a is like a grand. So well, the problem is that we don't even value our own that is actually much deeper and more powerful. That's just the sorry part of a very serious problem in this part of the world. And we all just have all these things that are so deep and powerful, but people don't know the real value. We are not able to tap into them. People believe that if you use the fire to build tech, that tech is evil, that system you are building is demonic, so which does not even make any sense. Even all our technologies of today, all our digital communication technology, they are just formed from a tiny aspect, just a very small aspect. If I love it, she will love it, develop. It was when I was even studying information theory. I read the original paper of Shannon. There's an American mathematician that is called Shannon. People that do computer science, they will know him very well. People that study engineering, Shannon. When I was studying his work, I was just like, gbogbo nǹkan tó ń ṣe yìí tí ó kọ́ dàbí pé tó bá kọ́ gbogbo ẹ̀ inú fallacy yọ jáde, because you are just going to be seeing many similarities that it just be well that. So this thing has been in African culture all this while. But people think it's the Europeans that actually developed them. But you know that many of the artifacts that they took away from Africa, they got inspiration by study to develop all these modern systems, modern technologies from them. So IFA goes deeper down. Yes, IFA is beyond quantum level. People in quantum mechanics now, physics is my field. They will think quantum mechanics is ultimate reality, that you can actually go beyond quantum physics. But quantum physics is tiny aspect of IFA. IFA is universe of all models. Whether you create it is classical. The opposite of quantum physics is classical physics. So IFA has classical physics. IFA has quantum physics. IFA has even physics that is even beyond quantum physics. IFA contains everything. Now let me just give us a glimpse of how we can use IFA, how IFA can inspire those of us in the sciences, people in the research line. You should know that all the laws of nature in science, everything is summarized in this system. Now people that use the term laws of nature, there are people in physics, in the sciences, and normal lots of nature view. So people in arts, in humanities, they don't normally use that term, because arts is not studied using scientific methods. That's why they call them arts. Europeans, they've not been able to devise scientific methods to study arts and humanities. But in IFA, all these IFA codes, they are the laws of nature that underlie whether it is science. So not every field, art, marketing, anything, the same law dey underlie gbogbo àwọn ọdẹ ní wọn àmì bá. For instance, let's start from physics. Let's start from a popular law in physics. You say the law of action and reaction, the Newton's law of motion. Action and reaction, they always balance. They are all equal and opposite. So if you look at just study Ejogbe now and Oyeku, the single law that underlie that concept, that Newton's law of motion, ni Ogbe àti Oyeku yìí. Ogbe, one of them is one of them is the dual of the other. Ejogbe, if this is action, this is reaction. One is action, the other one is reaction. If this is reaction, the other is action. This is the concept that actually underlies the Newton's third law of motion. If you look at Newton's first law of motion, which is that an object that is at rest will continue to be at rest, or it will continue to move in a straight line unless it is acted upon by an external force. So that will now change its state. So if you look at that first law of motion now, that one is just talking about change. it's just change transformation nínú ifá transformation ní mathematics ifá fi tí ifá máa state law yẹn it's just going to state it via the transformation of energy transformation ifá transformation from ogbe to ọ̀yẹ̀kú from a state of rest inertia to a state of motion from ogbe to ọ̀yẹ̀kú bí ifá ṣe máa state ẹ̀ nìyẹn ti ifá yìí nǹkan tóun ṣe wà mọ́ deeper ni pé èyí tó yìnbó máa sọ pé ti tòun physics nìkan ní tòun the same thing nínú ifá you can use it for mathematics you can use it for English studies you can use it for history you can use it for arts you see there are different why one is just narrow to makeness is a narrow scope the other one is versatile so the other one is a polymatic system is so if only we can just stop all the petty fights. The major problem in Africa is all these our major petty issues that we normally it's not allowing us to unite. But if my system is low, if I can be a rallying point. Okay, I think I have to end the live now. My laptop is low. So thank you so much for everyone that attended the program. Ẹ ṣé gan mo dúpẹ́ o. Bàbá wa Chief Sarumi Abọ́lúbọ̀yè Sàmúdúpẹ́ o. Educated stream observer Adénìkẹ́ ẹ ṣé gan ma ẹ ṣé gan fún support wa o. Thank you so much. My laptop is gone now. Unless I will start the live again. I will turn the generator. But maybe I think I can restart it. Ẹ jẹ́ kí n sáré tan ọjọ́ ìmọ̀ ń bọ̀. Okay, the system is going to turn off now. Let me put on the gen. Please give me a minute. Let me switch to generator.